Chapter 3, The Making of a Global World, Short Notes and Important Word Meanings from Class 10, Subject Social Science History, Book India and the Contemporary World 2. Introduction. Globalization today refers to a tightly connected world, but this process began centuries ago. Long history of trade, migration, search for work, capital flows, and spread of ideas, values, inventions, and diseases. By understanding earlier phases of global interactions, we can grasp how the present world emerged. First, the pre-modern world. 1.1 Silk routes linked the world. Silk routes, ancient trade routes connecting Asia, Europe, and North Africa. Traded goods, Chinese silk, Indian textiles and spices, European gold and silver. Cultural exchanges, Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam spread along these routes. 1.2 Food travels, spaghetti and potato. Food as a symbol of cultural exchange, example noodles to spaghetti. Many crops like potatoes, maize, tomatoes, and chilies came to Europe and Asia after the discovery of the Americas. These foods transformed diets and population growth. Example Irish dependence on potatoes. 1.3 Conquest, Disease and Trade. 16th century, sea routes discovered by Europeans shrunk the world. Conquest of Americas led to vast wealth extraction. Example silver from Peru and Mexico. Diseases like smallpox devastated native populations, made conquest easier. Second, the 19th century, 1815 to 1914. 2.1 A world economy takes shape. Britain removed corn laws, imported cheap food, reducing domestic production. Global agricultural economies emerged, people migrated, and new lands were cultivated. Massive migration from Europe to America and Australia. 2.2 Role of technology. Railways, steamships, and telegraph transformed transport and communication. Refrigerated ships made meat affordable in Europe, improving diets and living standards. 2.3 Late 19th century colonialism. Economic gains coexisted with colonization, exploitation, and loss of freedom. European powers divided Africa. Berlin Conference 1885. Sir Henry Morton Stanley in Central Africa. Explorers like Stanley aided colonial conquest. Mapping and documenting territories made imperial control easier. 2.4 Rinderpest or the cattle plague. Late 1880s, cattle disease spread from Asia to Africa, killed 90% of African cattle, devastated local economies, forced Africans into wage labor, aiding European colonial control. 2.5 Indentured labor migration from India. Indian laborers were taken to plantations in the Caribbean, Fiji, Mauritius, etc. Harsh conditions, false promises, and exploitation common. New cultural identities and traditions emerged. Example Hosei Chutney Music. 2.6 Indian entrepreneurs abroad. Indian bankers, example Chettiars, Shroffs, financed agriculture in Southeast Asia. Indian traders followed colonizers and established businesses abroad. 2.7 Indian trade, colonialism, and the global system. British imposed tariffs damaging Indian textile exports. India exported raw materials like cotton, indigo, and opium. Britain had a trade surplus with India, used it to pay off debts and other imports. Third, the interwar economy. 3.1 Wartime transformations. World War First, 1914 to 1918. Industrial War, global in impact. Millions of soldiers recruited, mass destruction. Economy shifted to war production. US became a creditor nation. 3.2 Post-war recovery. Britain's economy weakened, faced debt and unemployment. Eastern Europe returned to wheat markets, creating surplus and falling prices. Many economies faced depression and instability. 3.3 Rise of mass production and consumption. US economy rebounded in 1920s through mass production. Example Ford's assembly line, increased wages plus consumer credit gives boom in durable goods like cars, fridges, radios. 3.4 The Great Depression began in 1929, global economic collapse, agricultural prices fell drastically, overproduction worsened the crisis. Loan withdrawal by US banks led to worldwide financial distress. Unemployment soared, especially in the US and Europe. 3.5 India and the Great Depression. India's trade collapsed, prices of exports, example jute, wheat, fell. Peasants suffered heavily, couldn't pay taxes, mortgaged land, sold jewelry. Urban salaried class fared better due to falling prices. Depression added fuel to anti-colonial struggle. Example Gandhi's civil disobedience movement in 1931. Fourth, rebuilding a world economy, the post-war era. 4.1 Post-war settlement and the Bretton Woods institutions. Two key lessons from interwar period. Mass production needs mass consumption supported by full employment. Government intervention is necessary for economic stability. Bretton Woods Conference 1944 led to creation of IMF and World Bank to ensure economic stability. Fixed exchange rates, currencies tied to US dollar which was linked to gold. 4.2 The early post war years. Western economies grew rapidly 1950 to 70. Japan and Europe rebuilt. Developing nations imported technology to catch up. 4.3 Decolonization and independence. Many Asian and African countries gained independence post World War II. These new nations struggled with poverty and development. Bretton Woods institutions later started assisting them, but with Western dominance. 4.4 End of Bretton Woods and the beginning of globalization. 1970s US economy weakened, dollar devalued. Fixed exchange rate system collapsed, floating rates introduced. Developing countries borrowed from private banks, leading to debt crisis. MNCs moved to low wage countries, example China, India, to reduce cost. Globalization intensified, new centers of growth emerged in Asia and Latin America. New words dissenter, one who refuses to accept established beliefs and practices. Next, indentured labor, a bonded laborer under contract to work for an employer for a specific amount of time to pay off his passage to a new country or home. Tariff, tax imposed on a country's imports from the rest of the world. Tariffs are levied at the point of entry, that is, at the border or the airport. Next, exchange rates. They link national currencies for purposes of international trade. There are broadly two kinds of exchange rates: fixed exchange rate and floating exchange rate. Fixed exchange rates. When exchange rates are fixed and governments intervene to prevent movements in them. Flexible or floating exchange rates. These rates fluctuate depending on demand and supply of currencies in foreign exchange markets, in principle without interference by governments. So friends, we have completed short notes and important word meanings from chapter 3, The Making of a Global World. We will do question answers of this chapter in a separate video. If you like the video, kindly like it and share it with your friends. Also subscribe to my channel. We will meet in the next video. Thank you for watching.